yesterday on Instagram, we asked you guys, what questions do you all have about section A, text response, of the exam? Quite a few of you responded, and so I wanted to take the time today to go through some of the questions that you have asked, give you the answers to them so that you are ready more than ever for your exam preparation and also just heading into the exam itself. By the way, we've been super active on Instagram. Please help us get to 1,600 followers. We've been growing quite quickly, which is amazing. There's a heap of stuff on there that you can use as well, like the mini thesaurus for most commonly used words, which we've just posted up. We've also posted up a general body paragraph structure for essays that you can save to your device and use anytime you need to during your studies. So make sure you go ahead and follow us. So the first question comes from Faye1E7_Ash, I'm sorry. And she asked, what makes a text essay stand out to examiners? So most people will go for the most obvious answers, which are, make sure that your grammar looks good, spelling is on point, expression is good. But actually, I think when it boils down to your essay compared to other people throughout the state, what really matters is your ideas. Ideas are a lot harder for people to generate and to come up with and to express in their own terms, as opposed to, let's say, spelling, where, once you've got your spelling right, then you've got your spelling right. There's not much more improvement you can go on from there. So that's why if you had a look at my last week's video where I talk about the return on investment and that you should be focusing on your areas of weaknesses because that generates you the largest return on investment for this short period of exam revision you have, you want to think about your essays in very much the same way in terms of the ideas. Developing more original ideas, a unique angle to come from, perhaps a different way of discussing those ideas that no one else is in the rest of your class is going to do, much less, the rest of the state, is something that's going to be a lot more challenging for you to try to do, as opposed to just improving your spelling, if that makes sense. Your spelling's only going to improve, maybe, I don't know, like less than 5% of the overall essay. Whoa, the sun's come out. Whereas if you spend that time thinking about how you can come up with better ideas, how you can discuss themes in a different way, then that's something that's really going to help you stand out from the rest of the crop. It's been raining heaps and the sun's just come out, so sorry if this video is just all over the place in terms of lighting. And the interesting thing about this answer that I've got is that focusing on ideas, coming up with ideas, reading through your book, trying to find the points of discussion that other people won't talk about, or the points of discussion that your teacher hasn't talked about, your friends haven't talked about, is actually really hard. And I think that's why a lot of people don't really focus on it. It's much easier to do the easy things like trying to improve on your spelling or trying to improve on your grammar. Actually, grammar is still challenging too, but I hope you know what I mean by when I say comparing spelling and ideas at the very least. So to summarize what I said, because I have to explain to you the rationale so that you actually understand, what makes a text essay stand out for examiners is your response, your ideas in response to the essay prompt. Probably not the answer you wanted to hear, but we got to really do the hard stuff if we want to shine compared to the rest of the cohort. So to follow on from this question, Annalise Joy says, how many pages should we aim to write? So I think this one's an interesting one because we're obsessed with structure and templates and rules, and that's because you've been taught rules from the beginning of time. In year 7 you're taught how to write an introduction, body paragraph, and conclusion, and so it's absolutely absurd to think over 6 years of this being drilled to you that maybe some schools, they don't even need you to write a conclusion. And I don't want to throw out any confusion in there. Like, I do think that you should try to write a conclusion whenever you can. But by the end of year 12, you kind of get to a stage where you should be realizing that it's not the amount of words that you're putting onto the paper. It's the quality of the writing that you're putting onto paper. So to give you a really good example, when I was in year 12 in my English exam, I was sitting next to this girl and she was going crazy with the amount that she was writing. And I was just like, what the, how? How can you write so much? My hand's hurting. And so by the end of my exam, how much I wrote was actually only around 2.5 pages for most of my essays, I'd say. I just didn't have that much to say. I knew that what I had to say was good, but I didn't feel the need to necessarily just drag on and on just so that I could hit the 3 pages, for example. On the other hand, this girl, she wrote like 5 pages for every single one of her essays. And I was like, damn girl, like, you gonna nail it. And she did nail it. She got a 45 in English, which placed her in the top 2% of English. But then, funnily enough, so did I. So I think that's a prime example to show you that the amount of words, the amount of pages in itself isn't what matters. It's the quality of the writing and the quality of the ideas, which links back to what I was saying in the first response. Having said that though, I know that a lot of us still like to grab onto something a little bit more tangible than me saying, you know, just do something of quality. So if you can, aim for 3 pages. That's kind of like the prime spot. I think when you're writing around 3 pages, you're writing with enough depth in your writing, but you're not also kind of dragging it out, which is, I think, personally unnecessary for you to write 5 pages worth in an exam. Asks, how do I not kill my hands while doing any sections, lol? So I've had a couple of different experiences that I'll share with you. My own is that I just practiced a whole lot of writing beforehand, and that was just to, you know, get my arms in shape, get my wrist in shape. And I actually chose a very specific pen that I thought would help me. You know, some pens, they're kind of thick to hold onto, and so your fingers kind of cramp as a result. Other pens are too thin and they kind of slip out of your hands. So play around with which type of pens you like writing with. Also consider the ink style that comes out and the ballpoint that comes out. It's funny that we're talking about this in such specifics. Yeah, I'd say just experiment during this time, you know, click an order from Officeworks, get it delivered, and just play around and see which one works best for you under time conditions. Now, this other one is taken from my marketer, Peggy, who has been doing our Instagram posts, by the way. She's amazing, and also she's a relief teacher at McRob, so dang girl, she knows what she's doing. Plus, she's been with LSG for, you know, ever since she graduated, which I think is super cool, but I digress. So she was basically saying how she would put like a rubber and wrap it around her pen and use that as a mini weight to practice her essays with. So up to you if you want to do that, but there definitely are creative and innovative ways for you to go about practicing your arm strength when it comes to the exam. Bella Males asks, how many quotes should we memorize? So again, with quotes, I would say that it's not the amount that you should be memorizing, it's more about what type of quotes are you memorizing and how likely are they to come up in your essays. So what I mean by this is, you know, rather than trying to memorize 100 quotes just because we think that 100 quotes is a good number and, you know, suddenly by memorizing 100 quotes it means that we know the book better, think truly about what that means for you in the exam. So I would much rather write down a list of the themes for my book. You know, it could be love, family, racism, etc. And then under each one of those themes, I would come up with a bunch of quotes that suit those themes. That to me makes more sense. And so the likelihood of me actually using one of these quotes is a lot higher because I'm actually thinking about in which cases would I use these quotes, as opposed to just, you know, jumbling up 100 quotes and going, yes, I have 100 quotes that I have memorized. How many practice responses should we do? Same sort of situation. It's not about the number, it's about the quality of the development that you're getting from that. So, you know, just because you're churning out 50 essays doesn't mean that you're learning the same amount every single time. If you find that the amount of learning that you're getting from each new essay is diminishing, then it's like diminishing returns. And it goes back to what we were talking about, return on investment in my last week's video. So that's why when it comes to exam revision, like there's a lot of self-awareness that needs to go into it. It's not about the quantity, it's about the quality. But the quality is a lot harder for people to measure because for you, it's really hard for you to compare, essay A and essay B that you did 3 days apart and kind of see how much you've improved. So what I encourage you to do is send your essays to your teacher if you can, send it to your friends and get feedback from them if you can. Or if you can't do that, then what I'd say is leave those 2 essays. Don't look over them straight away, but come back to them about a week later because your improvement within a week is going to be greater than what it is over a couple of days. So you'll be able to come back and get a better sense of, what are the things that you could be improving. And also just the fact that you come back with fresh eyes and you see things as though you're a new person looking at this essay. So you can see my responses to all these questions have a similar theme. And I hope it's not annoying that I'm not like, you should do 100 quotes, you should do 50 essays, because that is not the solution. It's the solution people want to hear, but it's not what's going to be most helpful for you. All right, last question. How should we go about planning effectively? So planning is a whole thing within itself. I love that has actually asked, how do we go about things effectively as opposed to how do I just do it within 5 minutes? Because she's focusing on the quality of her output as opposed to just, thinking about time or thinking about, the amount of words that she should be writing. So I think for every single person, your plan should look very much unique to you and it should serve you. So what I mean by this is in your plan, think about what you need to have written down so that you can ensure that your essay follows suit with your plan. For some people, it might be more detailed than others, but the whole point of a plan is to ensure that you answer the essay prompt. So for me, as an example, one thing that I really like to include in all of my plans wasn't just like, typical underline the key words, writing out my topic sentences and the examples. But in the examples, what I do is I'd specifically highlight certain meta language that I wanted to cover because I knew that as a point of difference from other students, my ability to talk about language techniques, the author's construction of the text, such as using symbols, metaphors, personification, that sort of thing, I knew that I had a strong grasp in that. And so I wanted to make sure that I included it and I didn't forget it in my actual essay itself. And so if you have a watch of my, how I plan video, it basically takes you through how I literally did a plan, my style. And so you can watch that video and then adapt it to your own style with what you think is most important that you want to include in your exam or essay, should I say. And so if you wanted more help and more specific advice on how to effectively prepare for the exam, how to actually plan and break down the 15 minutes reading time, how to actually use your first few minutes of writing time so you can plan essays A, B, and C, and then time manage that properly. We still have some spots available left for our LSG exam workshops. So while I've talked about, generally some of the advice that you can take with you into exam, what we do in the workshops is really go into the specifics about how you can actually go about studying over your next few weeks leading up to the exam, how to do that effectively and time manage it properly so that you're getting through exactly what you need to get through so that you're prepared and confident walking into the exam itself. If you purchase now, it is $40, so early bird is already over, but it's still $40, which is, I think, really worth your value because not only do you get all the things that I mentioned just then, including how to effectively prepare for the exam, section A, section B, section C, exam preparation advice, but if by the end of all that you still have questions, Peggy and I are doing a live Q&A on the 14th of October at 7 p.m. The link to the live stream is already available for you, so if you wanted to go there and save a reminder, then do so because we will be jumping on and answering all of the students' questions. They're gonna be our priority. So if you want your question answered by us, make sure that you go ahead and purchase this workshop. We're really looking forward to supporting you guys throughout the rest of this year 12, especially during lockdown, which I know totally sucks, but I'm here for you. We as the LSG team are here for you. So don't worry, we got your back and I know you're still gonna do awesome. Next week, we're gonna be covering section B. So again, if you're not on our Instagram, make sure you go ahead and follow over there because very shortly we'll be asking you what your questions are for section B. So stay tuned. Have a good week, guys. Bye.